Hey geometry students, this is Ms. Lagur again. This is the third video in the series of trigonometric ratios. The other two videos were focused on finding the side lengths of a right triangle. But this video specifically is going to be focused on finding the angles that are missing within the right triangle. And we're still going to continue to use the trig ratios sine, cosine, and tangent. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to be using the inverse trig ratios. And that notation looks like this, which I'm underlining right now. And basically what happens is that you take the ratios like sine of theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. And what you do is you isolate the angle theta in order to be able to get the value of the angle. But when you do that, the notation of the sign is no longer next to the angle. Now it's on the right side of the equal sign. And it also changes a little. You add this little -1 up at the top over here, but we call that sine inverse, okay? And we're taking the inverse sine of opposite over hypotenuse, right? So we still set up the fraction. But then now what we do is we put that fraction or that ratio inside of the inverse of the function, in this case, in the inverse of sine, okay? Now, if you do that to cosine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse, and that becomes theta is equal to cosine inverse of A over H, okay? And then when we're dealing with tangent, right, that's O over adjacent or opposite over adjacent. So when we're trying to get theta, we're going to have tan inverse of O over A, okay? And that's pretty much the gist of it. Okay, we're still going to follow the same rules that we did before. Identify the location of the angle, label the sides that are given by opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse, depending on what you have, set up the correct trig ratio, and figure out, are you using sine, cosine, and tangent? So let's try an example. So here we're being asked, we're going to be finding angle measures using trig. Remember always to make sure that your calculator is in degree mode, whether you're using a cell phone or if you're using a scientific calculator. You don't need a graphing calculator for this. Okay. Here, look at where X is. It's inside of the triangle, which means that we're looking for an angle. Also, we know we're looking for an angle because there's a degree symbol along next to the X, okay? But let's take a look. Across from X, we're given the 15. That represents the opposite side. Across from the 90, we are given 24, so that means that this is our hypotenuse. So for this problem, we're going to be using sine of X equals opposite over hypotenuse. So in this case, that would be 15 over 24, right? Since we are looking for the angle, right, then to isolate X, we're going to do sine inverse, and in parentheses, we're going to put 15 over 24, okay? So when we type that into the calculator, this is how it looks. Sine inverse, parentheses 15 divided by 24. Notice that we have a sine button here, but at the top, it says sine inverse in blue, so that means that we have to press the second, and then we press a sine to get sine inverse so that it looks like this, okay? And when you press enter, this is the answer that we get, 38.682. Now, this is a degree value. We're not going to give a decimal value for the degree. We're going to round the value to the nearest whole number. So since we have 38.682, we're going to say that X is 39 degrees, okay? So what that means is that this angle up here is 39 degrees, okay? All right, and if we wanted to find the third angle, that other third angle, then we would just have to remember that the sum of the angles in a triangle add up to 180. So we would subtract 180 minus 90 minus 39, or we could just easily subtract 90 minus 39, and that would give us the third angle, right? Which would be 51. So that would mean that this angle would be 51. Okay, just a little side note there. All right, so let's try another example. So here is x. We're looking for x, and it's an angle. 11 is next to the angle, so this is our adjacent. Wait, no, wrong. Mistake, sorry. The 11 actually is across from the 90, so this actually is our hypotenuse. The 8 is next to the 8, so that means that the 8 is the adjacent. Now, a lot of people, that's a very common mistake that people make. See, so common that even I made it because I didn't look at it carefully at first, right? But then I was like, wait, hold on, there's a mistake there. So just to fix there, the hypotenuse is the 11 and the 8 represents the adjacent. So in this case, we are dealing with cosine. So we're going to set up cosine x equals 8 over 11. And we're going to isolate the x. And so x is going to equal cosine inverse, or the inverse of cosine. And we're going to put 8 over 11 inside of the parentheses. In the calculator, I'm going to plug that in. This is what I get, 43.34. So that means that x is equal to 43 degrees. Okay, and that's the value of that angle. All right, so let's try one more time. And let's see, the 37 is next to the x, and it's not across from the 90, so this is the adjacent. And then across from x is 20, so 20 represents our opposite. So remember, anytime that we have opposite over adjacent, we're dealing with tangents, so we're going to have tangent of x equals 20 over 37. And then to isolate the x to get the value of the angle, we're going to set up x equals tan inverse of 20 over 37. And when you plug that into the calculator, you will get, oh, sorry, I typed it in wrong. 20 divided by 37 is 28.393. So then that means that x is approximately 28 degrees for this problem. All right, let's try a word problem. Here we are told that Jaden is flying a kite. Okay, so we're going to have a right triangle. I'm going to say the kite is here. Here is its string. Here's Jaden. Okay, Jaden is flying a kite and lets off 275 feet of string. So this is 275 feet. If the kite is 150 feet above the ground, so above the ground would be here, 150 feet above the ground, and assuming the string is straight, what angle does the string make with the ground? So here's the angle. Or instead of labeling it theta, you could label it x. We can say here, oops. Hold on. You're going to label that x. There we go. Okay, so what angle does the string make with the ground? So this is our picture that we're dealing with, right? And we notice that the x is across, we have 150, so this is going to be our opposite side. And then the 275 is directly across from the 90, so that is our adjacent side. So we're going to use tangent in this case. Tangent of x equals 150 divided by 275. And to get the x by itself, we're going to take the tan inverse of 150 over 275. And we're going to plug it into our handy dandy calculator. And we're going to get the value of, oops, my bad. Oops. We're going to get this value. That's what you type. This is what you get. So our answer is going to be that x is equal to 28 degrees. So the angle that is being made with the string and the ground is going to be at 28 degrees here. All right, I hope this helps and that you are able to complete the assignment for these trigonometric ratios pretty easily. If you can't, let me know, and if I need to make another video, I will. Have a great weekend, guys. Talk to you soon.